Hey everyone, Jason here, and welcome to episode 2 of Jason's O-Gauge Trains. It's early January 2021, and I've been hard at work in the basement when I've had free time. It has been a very busy Christmas season, but in a very good way. So lately I have been able to get down here and get quite a bit done on the layout. So today I'm going to show you a few items that I've purchased recently, some additions made to the basement, and of course the updates to the layout and the lower level. So let's go ahead and get started at looking what I have recently purchased and received as gifts. So here's a steel coil car made by Atlas in the INLX paint scheme. This car was actually a gift from my sister and brother-in-law for Christmas. I had already bought one of these INLX cars about a month before, but I've been wanting to grow my steel coil car fleet, and so this was a perfect addition. And what's even more is INLX stands for Inland Steel, and I work for a company called ArcelorMittal. We are the largest steel producer in the world. And when I was working at our Burns Harbor mill in Burns Harbor, Indiana, I used to see dedicated steel coil trains moving steel coils from our Indiana Harbor facility out to the IN Tech and Coat facility in New Carlisle, Indiana. There would be a train with all of these INLX coil cars. They didn't have covers on them, which is why this doesn't come with a cover either, but it was an entire unit train of probably 50 or more steel coil cars, and I used to see that go by all the time when I would watch trains on the Chicago line. So it made sense that when Atlas announced this in their catalog that I would pick up a couple of them. So I'm really happy I have it, and it's going to be a great addition to a steel coil unit train in the future. Now, here is the item that I'm very excited to show to all of you. This is the brand new MTH Premier Union Pacific Restoration Big Boy number 4014. Now, I've always wanted a Union Pacific Big Boy for the layout, but they were always so expensive and the timing just never seemed right to order one. And then finally, once the real 4014 started doing excursions last year, and MTH announced that they were going to release the restoration version, which is the one you see in front of you, which is why it's so shiny, I knew I just had to get it. And especially since MTH announced that Mike Wolf would be retiring and we're all still awaiting the fate of what's going to happen to MTH, I decided it was the right time to order one and bring one home. As mentioned, this is the restoration version. It's MTH item number 20-3775-1. I ordered mine through Stockyard Express in Oberlin, Ohio. I actually picked it up the week that it was delivered to the store, and unfortunately when I took it home and got it programmed, I was having some issues with the DCS signal and it wasn't acting correctly, so I immediately took it back. They replaced the board for free because it was under warranty, and that was quite a bummer because I usually have really good luck with MTH with buying brand new engines. I rarely have issues, but in this case there was a problem, but it was under warranty, so it was replaced for free, and now it's back home and working perfectly. Now, unfortunately, I only have one video clip of the Big Boy running around the old layout, so I'll include that at the end of this video, and the rest of it is going to be just running around this layout. Now, I do plan to do a full review on this locomotive. Unfortunately, my current layout doesn't have any scenery, and it's always more fun, I think, to do a review when a locomotive is being featured on a completed layout where there is lots of scenery. But because I'm in the construction phase, we're going to have to settle with me reviewing it on this layout. Hopefully I can get that posted on YouTube in the next few weeks. I do want to get a couple up-close shots of the engine really quick. Here we can see the front boiler of the locomotive where we have the Big Boy written in chalk on the front of the boiler. And again, this is modeled after the restoration version as it would have been an excursion service of 2019. They have been painting, or I guess chalking, the Big Boy lettering on the front of the boiler ever since it came out of the shop, and they do keep the locomotive very clean as it toured around the country. So the fact that it's all shiny and has this gloss black finish on it, it really is prototypical to how the Big Boy ran last year. And here's just a shot from the back of the locomotive. Just as equally beautiful as the main engine is the tender in that shiny gloss black paint scheme. I absolutely love it. Now, I will point out really quick, now that I have the engine up and running, there are 3 ground lights on the locomotive, which is new for me. A lot of Lionel engines have been doing this for years, but this is a first for me with MTH engines. So what I mean is the 3 lights on each side. There's one here, and then one back by the cab. Pretty cool when the engine is sitting idle to see those lights on. Now before I move on to all the layout progress, I gotta show you one really cool thing down here in the basement. As I pan left, we get a look at this brand new, beautiful shelf that was installed this past week. I purchased this from my friend Joe Delude, who's a member of the Detroit Three Railers, who happens to be a professional cabinet maker. So I commissioned him to make this shelf for the basement. I wanted to maximize the storage space on this wall, so he came over, did some measurements, and drew up the plans for this. And let me tell you, this shelf is of the highest quality. I know someone's going to ask. I'm not going to paint it. I really like the natural wood look to it, but it has been, professionally finished with a really nice coating over it. And he's not in the train shelf making business, but if you were interested in having a shelf like this made, you can contact me through my email, which I'll include in the description below. But these are top of the line, professionally made shelves, so they're certainly not cheap, but they are incredibly well made, and I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Now the shelf is actually built in two sections because that was the only way it was going to fit into the basement, and you can actually see the crease for the two pieces right here, and it's nice that it's cut from the same piece of wood so that the wood grain matches up perfectly. There's actually dowels drilled into those two sections, so once the lower section was put in place, all they had to do was drop the top one essentially on top of it, like putting a puzzle piece together, and then it was screwed into the wall studs. One thing I think I need to do now though is install some more lights in the ceiling, maybe one strip of track lights that can shine on this shelf because it's kind of in a dark corner. It's going to be a corner where there's a TV off to the left, so I didn't think I wanted light over there, but now that the shelf's in place and I have some trains on it, I can tell I'd really like just a couple of spotlights shining on it so it can really highlight the train. So I think I'll be doing that in the near future. And I showed this box in my last video, but just to confirm, this is my Millhouse River Studios turntable. It's the largest one they make, which I think is 34 inches, which should be able to hold my Allegheny and my big boy. That, once I unbox it, is going to go in the peninsula area right over here, but that is not going to be ready to go in until all of the decking is done. But I'll be unboxing this very soon. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed seeing those new additions as well as that really nice new shelf that was just added. Again, I'm going to say that if you're interested in having a shelf like that made for your own layout, please contact me via my email and I'll put you in touch with Joe. He's located here in the Detroit area. He can ship around the country but prefers not to. Would prefer to keep it local here in Detroit for delivery or pickup. Alright, so now for what's always my favorite part, showing you all what's been done to the layout. So we're going to just start on the left side, and as you can see on the computer, got some live stream going of PGH Train Fanatic. Nick, how you doing? So over here to the left, right here is where the beginning of the lower reverse loop starts, and as you can see, the cork road bed is down and secured. I have track power wired here, and if I continue down under the layout, you'll see the ramp going down to the lower level has been corked as well. And if I move over to the main part of the lower reverse loop, all of the track has actually been corked, track power is hooked up, and it is all nailed in place. I did nails instead of screws because one, I think the Atlas screws can be a little tricky to get in and out, and you tend to strip them. You also often tend to over torque them, and you can end up breaking ties. So I like using nails, and they're still, I can pry them up pretty easily with the screwdriver if I need to, and I can paint over them so that they blend in with the ties. But continuing on with the progress, so all of the track on the lower level has been corked, it's secured, all of the switches are wired. Again, all the power is wired. My siding has been completed, and if we follow that siding where this Triple Crown road railer train is, we'll see that that is complete all the way to the underside of the roundhouse turntable area. So it backs all the way up to that buffer right there. So I can park an entire train on that siding and can actually have 3 engines fit in the siding. Right now there's just 2, and that siding is actually powered on and off through the MTH DCS accessory interface unit. So right now, as you can see, there is no power to the track because that is the power pickup. If I activated power, that would be illuminated green. The same goes with the inside track here for the lower reverse loop. I can control this on and off so that if a train is parked there, I can have the power off to the track. This outside loop, though, will always be on and always be powered with everything else. And to demonstrate what I mean really quick for giving power to the lower tracks, here is the DCS Wi-Fi app, and if I select the lower siding tab right there and I click on, you can see that that green light has now come on, which indicates that there's track power, and these two engines should turn on momentarily. And there they go. And likewise, if I want to kill that track power, all I do is select off, the light goes off, track power is gone, and now those engines turn off. The one thing that I haven't figured out yet is if I have a lash-up programmed on the siding, it tends to get confused when I apply the track power like that. Even if I shut the engines down and restart them, there tends to be a few issues. I've been told that the MTH DCS Commander wired into an isolated siding like this would fix that, so I'm exploring that. But for now, the power is at least hooked up and it's working fairly well. And here we are on the other side. There's the Triple Crown Road Railer train and the siding, and we have the series of switches here that are all wired for use off of the MTH DCS accessory interface unit, so I can control all these switches with a handheld remote. And this very first switch right here is wired up so that it's non-derailing, so that when a train comes from the opposite direction and if the switch isn't in the correct position, it'll automatically throw it. I only need that done for this first switch because all the other ones I'll control manually, and they're wired together. At least these two up here are, because if I want a train to take the inside loop, I throw one switch, it'll throw the other one to automatically line it up. And since we're under the layout, let's take a look at the new control panel. This is where the brains, or the heart of the layout, is located now. I put up this board right in the smack dab center of the layout. And to show you what I've got set up here, right now the power is coming from the Z4000, which is on the floor. That's not going to be there. That's going to be in the cabinet right there that I'll show you all in a minute. Same with the smaller Z1000 transformer next to it. The Z4000 is powering the track, and that little Z1000 is controlling the switches. And if we look at the board, right there in the very middle is the MTH track interface unit. That's tied in to the DCS Wi-Fi unit, which lets me control the trains with the MTH app on my phone. Then there's two accessory interface units to the right. That is how I control the switches on the layout, as well as the powered on and off switches for the lower reverse loop. And on the left here, this is all of my terminal blocks for the track power. So right now I only have the first terminal block wired up. That is going to control the entire lower level. These other three will be wired later for the middle level and the top level eventually. And there's plenty of room on this board for adding more terminal blocks. And one day I'll probably add Lionel Legacy. People are always asking me when I'm going to add that, and the answer is just once I buy a Lionel Legacy engine. I'm not going to spend the money to buy a Legacy if I don't have any Legacy engines. But I'm sure one of these days I'll bite the bullet, I'll buy my first Legacy engine, and then I'll get Legacy as well. So this is a great setup for my layout. I had mentioned in my last video the wiring I did on the old layout was just atrocious, so I wanted to make sure that this time it was going to be well organized, easy to navigate, would be easy to troubleshoot if there were any kind of issues. So making good progress down here. So moving from the control panel to that cabinet I had just mentioned, this cabinet is what's going to hold all of the transformers and the power for the layout. This was given to me by a member of the Detroit 3 Railers, Andy. Andy, thank you very much. Andy's layout is the one that we use as the club layout. So that's the one that we can transport, set up somewhere, and then run trains on 4 tracks and take it down. But they have a new cabinet that they use now, so this one was donated to me for my use. So again, thank you very much to Andy. I'll be able to fit 2 Z4000s on these lower shelves, and then the top one up here I'll be able to hold a few Z1000s and whatever else I need for accessory power, switch power, etc. I need to buy some new casters for it so that it sits a little bit lower, because I want it to be able to slide under the layout, and right now it's just a little too tall. So the plan will be that this will be pretty much hidden under the layout. When I want to run trains, I'll just pull back the black curtain. I would open this up, switch on the power, grab my remote or whatever, push it back under, and won't have to look at it until I turn the trains off. So very nice little addition. And a couple other important items to mention. You can see that the holes that I drilled in the 2x4s are coming in handy for the track power. I'm going to use all of these a lot more in the future as I lay the middle level, but I'd encourage anyone to pre-drill holes through their layout so that they have some wiring channels. And then, very importantly, it comes to the beams that I built for the layout. I had mentioned this in the last couple videos that in order to strengthen the center of the layout, I really needed to add a couple beams. So the first large beam starts right here, and it travels all through the middle of this section and ends there. And there's 3 support legs, 1, 2, and 3 supporting it. So this center section isn't going anywhere, very strong. And if we come over here to the really large section where we have these 12 footers, which really needed the support, I've actually built 2 beams. Well, I should say myself and my friend Mark built these beams. So there's a beam that spans 4 of the stringers with 2 legs, another beam that spans the stringers with 2 legs, and then we've got tie-ins for this beam, which is now supported from end to end, and those little 2 connections. Same thing at the end of this beam. The beam ends here, a few connections, and with the legs, I'm telling you, I was crawling all over the top of this without any plywood, and they are not bowing at all. This is plenty strong. It is going to support the trains. It's going to support my weight. It is a solid, it's going to be a solid tabletop for sure. The only other thing I might do is there's 2 other places on the edge I might add another leg. I think I might add one right there. I think I might add one more right over there on the peninsula area. But the bench work is very strong. It's complete. And what that means is I can move on to decking the middle level. And one more thing worth mentioning before I go to footage of the trains running. I was pleasantly surprised that both my Allegheny and the new Big Boy can successfully navigate the lower reverse loop. I initially said I gotta be able to get the Allegheny down there, but I wouldn't be upset if the Big Boy couldn't do it. I didn't really plan on the Big Boy ever using the lower reverse loop, but to my surprise, it handles the transition piece at the top and the bottom just fine. It can go around the outside track of the lower reverse loop without hitting anything. And I've been testing both of those engines quite a bit, and they have no issues whatsoever. So I'm really happy about that, and I'll show you some footage of these 2 engines running on that lower reverse loop in just a few minutes. Alright, so that's about all for this layout update. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I always do my best to answer all of your questions. And the next steps for this layout is to buy the plywood to deck the whole main level, and I'll be able to start laying track. So hopefully I have another layout update to show you very soon. And I do want to mention that probably a few weeks ago I passed the 6,000 subscriber mark. So a big thank you to everyone who watches and subscribes and likes the videos. It means a lot to me, and the channel has been growing a whole lot in the past year, so hopefully it keeps growing in 2021. I'm actually already at 6.5 thousand subscribers, so closing in on that 7,000 mark very soon. So anyway, I'll leave you with footage of the trains running around the layout like I usually do. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.